All right, mic check, mic check. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 44 of Let's Keep Talking. Wherever you are in the wild, wild world or in the metaverse, I hope this episode finds you great. I hope it finds you well. I hope today is treating you great. I hope that your morning has been awesome, or if you're listening to this in the evening, normally the show comes out around 5 o'clock. I hope that your day has treated you well. I really do. Just want to say first off, thank you so much for listening to this episode. It's always great to see repeat listeners, people hanging out for the next episode, the next episode, the next episode. So what's up to you guys? If this is your first time joining, hey, how you doing? Let's Keep Talking is a show where I share from my heart about how life is changing me and growing me. And I hope that my self-disclosures are helpful for you too. If you haven't already, and most of you guys haven't, love you very much, but most of you guys haven't rated the show. Only about 2% or so of listeners so far have dropped a rating on the Spotify or the Apple Podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, throw a thumbs up and subscribe if you like it. If you don't like it, no worries, okay? But if you do like it, help a boy out, reach some more people with it. Okay, episode 44. Let's get into it. Today's episode is how to slow down and get more done. Today's episode is the topic for today, to be honest, has been a bitch. I mean, this has been something I've been learning about, slowing down and being more productive, getting more done with my time, but untangling the workaholic stuff. If you're a workaholic or you have been a workaholic, this is the show for you, man. Today's the show for you. The last few episodes have been about being a workaholic, untangling this whole 24/7 having to work, staying on that grind, baby, and readjusting my focus to just getting things done. And the amount of time I spend working is not that important, and I'm not using it as an escape anymore. But I've tried to take this thing I've started to learn about really genuinely finding myself being more productive as I've chilled the fuck out, slowed down, and been a lot more relaxed in the routine that I get my work done. And I want to share that with you today. I want to talk about that with you today. I want to just say before I get into it that this was a really difficult concept to put into writing. I spend, I'd say, about 4 or 5 hours a week prepping for the show, taking together all of the rants or the spiels that I would want to share with the world and putting it down onto paper. And this one I had to rework it quite a few times because it was just hard to really clearly articulate what I'm trying to say. But I've done that successfully, and I hope you can rock with me for the next 30 minutes or so as I break down what I'm learning and what I hope you can also learn about from the idea of slowing down, doing less, but doing more. Okay? Subtitle: The Art of Working Hard, Patiently, and Properly. Okay, why are we here? Why are we here today? Today's episode could help you lose the weight, build the business, make the money, whatever your current goal is. That's the point. It could help you do anything. Whatever your current goal is, it could help you with that by helping you be more aware of a little mistake most of us make when we try and tackle new goals. Most of the time, when we want to change something, we hyperfixate. I know I do. Get pumped and fucking dive in. But as most of us know, these changes are quick, all-consuming, and short-lived. Most of us find ourselves right back where we started, and I'm really sitting here thinking there's got to be a better way to do this. There's got to be a better way to do this, and yeah. So, well, I think that I am finding it, and I want to share that with you. So let me first tell you what I've been experiencing. Let me catch you up on what I've been experiencing, and then we can boil it down to a relatable concept here for us together. Okay? So let's hop into this bad boy. First thing, I've noticed a change in me. Put very simply, I haven't been able to get excited about my work. That's the simplest way to talk about it. I haven't felt the rush I used to feel. And at first, I thought this was a bad thing. Lauren can attest to this, I promise. I was a little worried. Maybe I messed up something in my brain. I don't feel excited about my work anymore. But after a few months of this, I think I like it. Not even just that I like it, I think I may have stumbled into a really important lesson. Let me explain. And this is about work for me. Mine's about work. Again, this is a kind of a workaholic mini series going on here, but you can insert weight loss. You can insert relationships starting and stopping. make it personal for you, and I think you'll be looking at the same lesson that I have. Okay? So, hear me out. I've always felt so excited about my work. I always have, so amped up. I've always worked on projects that were going to be it. And once I found the thing, I would hyperfixate for a few weeks and then return to trying to find the next thing. I don't think that I'm alone in that experience. What's up, baby? Thanks for tuning into this episode. Let's keep talking. I have really only worked on the next exciting project that I came across. That's kind of how I've worked. The next principle in a book that I found, the new strategy that was going to make all the difference. That's how I've worked, man. Meanwhile, in my business, I have stayed pretty much the same for a couple of years. Okay? I think at this point, this is probably starting to sound a little relatable in the area of health and wellness, in the area of financial strength, in the area of business, marking forward, working really hard, hyperfixating on one thing, going balls to the wall, all in, and then kind of finding yourself right back where you started. Meanwhile, in my business, I've stayed pretty much the same for a couple of years. I have been creative, busy, and even chaotic at times, but not consistent. Humbly, I admit, as I look back over the last few years, I've been very excited, but not reliable and efficient. Or in quotes, I've been busy getting not much done. The fun stuff, the new project, the next big thing has always really fueled me in my work. It's made work a real blast, honestly, and be quite honest, it's the reason I keep coming back because it's just so much fun. But over the years, there has been a growing reality that had gotten hard to avoid. That through all of my energy, all of the exciting plans for the next big thing, I haven't really moved much closer to the future or to the goals that I have for the future. And the future keeps getting closer, okay? After all of my work, I'm finding that I haven't really made much sustainable, marked progress towards my goals for the future, and the future keeps on tracking closer to the current moment, baby, okay? I'm getting older. The years are going by. I've always seen myself moving forward in one place, one area, like my business sales or management or marketing or a creative project like this podcast. I'd go balls to the wall on a specific area for a bit, and then the lack of attention to the other things would eventually force me to have to run back over to those, leaving the task I had just hyperfixated on so that it will fall behind with the other. So I kind of created this cycle. That's how I've worked for so long. I've been super excited and focused on this is going to be it. And so I take that to the hills for 7 days straight, 21 days straight, for 4 months or 4 weeks, and I go crazy on it. And then because of my hyperfixation, my narrowed focus, the other things in my life that I'm responsible for that also are very important for moving myself forward towards my goals, they don't have my attention. So without a doubt, squeaky wheel gets the oil. Eventually, after just a few weeks, those things begin to be in somewhat of a state of dire need, and then I have to run back over to those. I hope that is something that you can resonate with. If you can, then hold on, because today is a great episode for you to hear. That's how I've worked. That's how I've worked for years. Wake up call. Part of me starting to wake up from being a workaholic started with noticing the work I was doing wasn't really getting much done once and for all. It was about staying busy and feeling the rush of being important and being right on the edge of a big kill. The rush that then became an addiction. And given the fact that when I was working on this stuff, it was just making me feel productive, and it wasn't really contributing to the sustained progress of my business. It wasn't really moving my business goals forward. It was just making me feel good. I'd even go as far as willing to say that I was in somewhat of a delusion. An example of this was, I would say, the year 2019. In the year 2019, that was the peak of my workaholicism, work nature. I was 24/7 on go. I was drinking Red Bull and eating Adderall, and I was driving a Tesla. I owned a Tesla. I had a nice spot. I was working all the time. I was too fast. I had too much going on to really talk too much about anything else. I was selling people. I was signing people up for my gym, and I was busy. keep in mind, I'm working for my gym. My goal for the gym is to continue to grow it over time, make it a great business, great reputation, and, like any business owner. In the year of 2019, I signed up to my business about 278 was my exact number. Yeah, 278. I signed up 278 new customers for month to month, usually about 9 months or so, at about $400 a month. So I'd signed up almost 300 new customers to my business, which anybody who has a great business, if you were to sign up 300 new customers to your business and you had the systems to be able to withstand that type of growth, man, you would have hit the business goals you had planned for the next 5 years. You would be blowing up, dude. And here's what happened to my business. I was 24/7 balls to the wall crazy sales guy. And if you talk to me, I thought I was destroying the world. I was crushing it. Here's the crazy thing. From the beginning of that year, 2019, to the end of that year, 2019, I went from 150 members at my studio to 144. I brought in almost 300 new customers, and my total business went down by 6. I was busy, hyper fixated on one thing for a while there, sales. And meanwhile, my customer retention, or in other words, keeping clients, was going down. Our retention dropped by like 3. It was like we kept people for an average about 6 to 8 months. And then by the end of that year, we were keeping people for like 2 months, 3 months. It had become a front door sales place that didn't have a good quality leadership, organization, and running smoothly. That was the year 2019. I was going hard 24/7 and selling so much. I was so busy and honestly so high on my own feeling of self-importance. And at the end of the year, what did I have to show for it? Throughout the year, and I hope this really makes sense. Throughout the year, I was so lit up. I was so on fire. Okay, I was so driven. I was so relentless. I was, on the edge of the big kill 24/7. And that was such a great year for me in terms of in the experience, the level of excitement and fun that running my business was. But the larger frame of reference, the larger picture here is over the year, my business got worse. Over the year, the major metric, which is customer satisfaction, customer retention, and overall growth of the company, was suffering. And so you could say that not only did I not get a lot done that year, but I was working 75, 85 hours a week. And not only did I not get a lot done, but my business actually shrunk. It actually went down by, what would you say that? Maybe roughly 5%? My business shrunk that year, 2019. And this was nothing to do with COVID. That's 2020. My business shrunk. There I was working so hard all the time, and my business shrunk. That's the kind of behaviors, man, that I have started to get distance from with this workaholic stuff. So as I've shared with you guys before, I've stopped using work as a means of feeling high and important, no longer speeding through my days like Red Bull and Adderall benders. And this is a good change. Okay, this is a good change. So that in general, that level of delusion, psychosis. You're in a different reality, player. You think you're Mr. Important and Mr. High, and meanwhile, the real picture of your life doesn't look that healthy. It doesn't look that strong. Your business, your number one thing you say you're putting all your time into, is actually shrinking. It's actually lowering the amount of customer satisfaction. You feel good because you're high 24/7, driven, making sales, doing all this stuff, and you're hyper fixated in one particular place. And meanwhile, the rest of the soup is cooling down. So, like I said, I have stopped in the last year. I'd really in the last year separated myself from that type of mindset, that type of go, always focused on hitting a couple kills today and feeling really excited at the expense of the rest of my life. So I'd separated from that, but I still have had goals. Okay. I separated from that type of work behavior, but I still have goals. I still have things I want to reach. And I'm sure you do too, in whatever areas, work, health, relationships, etc. So I've separated myself from the unhealthy work behaviors that I deem unhealthy, but I still have goals. I want more success in my personal life and really want to be the best business leader that I can. So I have kept working. But something has felt off. Something's felt off. This is what I referenced at the beginning. Something has been off. Almost every day when I sit down to work over the last few months, I've noticed that I just don't feel like I used to. I don't feel the rush, the excitement. In short, I don't feel motivated. And this initially has been disheartening. It really has. Kind of like, damn, is it over for me? Did I lose my mojo? This was disheartening. But, being inspired by freedom and discipline, I have continued to show up and work. And instead of spending all day obsessing over the current thing that my motivation would tend to hyperfixate on, I've been slowing down, centering myself, or taking a moment before I begin working, and doing the things that truly, I know, need to be done. Not just now, but for my business as a whole. So let's contrast and compare the 2019 working 16 hours a day, making sales, marketing, focus on getting more people in here, drinking Red Bull, drinking coffee, taking Adderall, being 24, just work. Always looking for the next strategy, looking for the next angle, make it. I'm always working. Meanwhile, my business is suffering. Compared to now. Now my day consists of a normal pace of emailing people back, preparing for important meetings well in advance, setting important meetings with people that will happen in the future, like, hey, we need to meet, next Tuesday. Can we do next Tuesday and the week following that Tuesday to talk about X, Y, and Z, to get together on this routine, to make sure we have iced down a few details on an important project. Also, completing a daily checklist of important business metrics. I'm doing all the things that were left undone or half-assed when I was aiming for the moon 24/7. This feels so much more routine and less chaotic. For a workaholic, it feels lame and lazy. It feels like I ain't doing shit. I ain't doing nothing. There are even times that there's actually nothing to work on for a few hours or so because I'm waiting on this, that, or the other from whoever. And so I take the downtime to relax and recharge when I can. The start to every morning so far has felt like a grind, especially with no porn. The last episode I talked about that. But I've gotten up, ice bathed, worked out, drank the shake, and got to work. And not feeling that inspired, getting to work, not feeling that inspired, here's what I've found out. Here's what I'm learning, man. The new work is a lot less fun and much more boring. But it's moving me towards my goals much faster. And that is a positive emotion that feels even better than excitement. Maybe pride or accomplishment. Here's the shock of it all. I'm progressing in my business more than I ever have as a whole. The feeling of not being able to get excited about stuff has actually come back to feel like a small superpower. Who would have thought? I have written beside this, that's exciting, LOL. That's pretty exciting. Throughout this process, I have found myself getting the hit of feel good, less from anticipation and more from accomplishment. And over time, it started to lift the tide. My situation is improving, and that feels better than the excitement did. Overall, here's the lesson I've started to learn. And that I want to share with you today. Don't get excited to change. Rather, work in the boredom. Do the small, boring things that actually make a change. And keep doing them. Even when it feels like you're not doing a ton, if it is an intentional, effective action based on a larger long-term goal, you're doing more than you think, I promise. If it's intentional, effective action based in a larger long-term goal. I mean, you can get more done over a longer time horizon with your goals than you can short. You know, there's a great saying that people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in 10. I know that definitely applied to 2019. I overestimated what I could do in that year. I thought I was going to do the whole world that year. People overestimate what they do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. If your actions, though be it boring, monotonous, simple, are intentional and effective within a larger long-term vision, a larger long-term goal, I can almost guarantee you, even if you're spending next to no time a day, an hour a day, working on that, you're doing a lot more than you think. A lot more than you think, especially consider that if it's just an hour and it's tomorrow just an hour and it's just an hour for that, you're doing that all year. 10 years from now, you're going to be like blasted through on that project compared to running and gunning for a short period of time. A good example of this is, a great example of this is the kind of boring, uneventful, routinized version of work that I'm experiencing now is you could see it, like there's a microcosm of it would be with the interaction I had with my CPA the other day. Now keep in mind I've been in business I was 16, I started working with CPA, so almost 9 years. I'm 26 in July, so almost a decade now I've been in business. And I opened up my own gym when I was 18, and so roughly 8 years now I've had a gym. And over those 8 to 10 years, not once, never have I had a monthly date on the calendar that at that day is when I review the last month, the fiscal month, the last month of results. Not in the last 8 to 10 years have I had a date on the calendar that I set and said, okay, that day is the day that I go and make sure I'm up to date on the last month's performance, some of those metrics on what was our total profit, what was our percentage we spent on X, Y, and Z, so that I just have a clear picture of it moving forward. In 8 to 10 years, I haven't had that. That is poor business management, my friend. That's poor. That's a failure. That's bad. It's really bad. In 8 to 10 years, I haven't had a day in the month that I looked back and said, how did we do last month specifically, objectively, actually? For 3 months now, I've done that. And the other day I sat down to do it. This is probably the 3rd, May the 3rd. And I noticed that a couple of the documents weren't completed. And I emailed my CPA and said, because here I am thinking I need to do all this, right? I need to get this thing done, check it out. Look and see how our last month was. And normally, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, if I would have seen that and not had what I needed in the moment, I would have piled through, went through the things myself, picked up the job that the CPA was supposed to do, and spent the next day and a half piling into these reports, organizing it, and then probably would have put together a format so that we could, a new Excel sheet so we can do this every month. I would have planned out the next 6 months of work that we could do, and I would have started looking into CFOs and researching accounting and just diving headfirst into everything accounting. And I would have felt so enthralled, so excited about going with this money, CPA reports, etc. I would have went and picked up an Accounts for Dummies. I did at one point 2 years ago, Accounting for Dummies, and read through it. And meanwhile, all I needed to do was just see the numbers, see the report. Losing my focus, you know? And I noticed I needed those reports. And so, inconvenienced by the plan to do this today and realizing that, or the plan to do this for the next 2-3 hours and realizing I'm not going to be able to, instead of jumping into that job, picking up that stuff and spinning my wheels for the next day or two, I sent an email to my CPA and said, hey, I'd like to each month have a set date that I can review the financial documents so I can do my financial planning for the next month and set aside money. What is a good day that we can agree on that we can have that done each month moving forward? And do you need anything additionally from me to be able to do that? Send. That was like a 3-sentence email. and I sent it. And then there was nothing else to do. This is also properly like delegation too. There was nothing else to do. I sent it to them and I waited. And I knew it might not be today that I get a response back. And so I moved on to the next project. And it's like such a weird feeling of lack of productivity because I didn't tackle anything today with that email. I didn't go through and figure out the accounting. I didn't go make a bunch of stuff and then have a bunch of new exciting things I can talk about at dinner that night. I just sent an email saying, hey, what's a good date that we can have this done each month so I can look at it. To be honest, I didn't feel like I was doing a whole lot at all. I kind of felt lame, kind of felt like, well, I didn't do nothing. Well, that's nothing, Finances, work on finances. Well, that's the only thing that really makes sense to do right now. Effective intentional action that will help us move the ball forward routinely over time is to just get a date on the calendar. So once I sent that email, there was nothing else to do, and I didn't get an email back to the next morning. And so legitimately, there was nothing else to do. And so I felt like I ain't doing shit. But it is putting me on the right path moving forward. Now, the email I got back was the 10th. So now on the 10th, on my schedule, it's due financial review. Boom. And so it feels like this much time in my day that I've spent on that particular project, on that particular thing. But in reality, that is moving me forward more than anything else. Tough to talk, tough to articulate, but I hope this is coming through. I really do. I really do. To make this super relatable, the best analogy for the difference in how I'm going about work versus how I used to is how you would think about a new diet plan. Here's how most of us think about a new diet plan. New food, new running shoes, new workout program, new supplements. They're coming in and you're pumped. This is great. All this stuff, boom, boom, new. Got the training, got the new shoes, got the gym membership. You're starting on Monday, and it's great for building motivation for now. Versus you eat a little healthier today and do some exercise. Not nearly as impressive. Nothing to tweet about or hashtag, but 100% effective and successful now and long term. The first approach sounds fun, engaging, chaotic, and like a theme, like something you can talk about as your current life thing. What's going on with you? Oh, I'm doing this. I'm doing all this kind of stuff. I know that's a big part of all the hyperfixation for me was having a theme, having that thing, that was the thing for you at the moment. The second approach feels wise, but kind of blah. And you really don't get that heavy dose of feeling something. Like you don't get the feeling of, yeah, I'm really going to make it because I'm changing everything. I'm going to be so X, Y, and Z. It feels like you aren't doing anything at all. But in reality, you're slowing down and getting more done. The first approach tends to hyperfixate, use tons of energy. And then, because of the overall level of resistance, think if you're trying to make a change in your life, think about the amount of change you have to make in the day-to-day work. Think about that in terms of resistance. How I've learned this a lot in personal training and through owning a gym. The likelihood that someone's going to stick to a program is very, very much correlated with the amount that they're being asked to change, the amount of requests being made, changing of food, changing nutrition, changing your sleeping habits, changing your daily routine, changing your drive home from work, go to a gym now, changing. The more you're changing stuff, the more excited we are to start, so it's easier to sell. When you say, I'm going to change nutrition and supplements and give you this and help you with this and all, doesn't that sound great? Aren't you going to be able to make a change? You go, oh, that sounds great. But the amount of things you're asking someone to change, in my mind, the way I teach this to trainers is it equates to resistance. So the more resistance you have, the less likely that person is going to be able to stick to this long term. The first approach tends to hyperfixate, use tons of energy, and then because of the level of resistance, you have to return to the normal behavior. It's just too stressful. Anna Lemke in Dopamine Nation, her book, reminds us that stress is defined as a deviation. This is how scientists define stress, a deviation from the norm. In this way, the first approach is most likely not effective because it's so stressful. It's so stressful. A coach years ago asked me, what's the best way to change over time? And I said, how? And he said, with small adjustments. Imagine you're on a bicycle going down a road. And if you just make the slightest adjustment, the slightest degree of change in the handlebars, it may not look like much for now or the next 100 feet, but it'll put you at a way different place down the road. This illustration teaches us to make small, easy adjustments that today don't feel like much, but they compound over time. Let's compare this to how most of us go about change. We go all in. Fuck yeah, 100%, or nothing at all. Often people use the phrase, quote, I'm an all or nothing person. This really feels like the core concept here. There's a concept here that can apply to weight loss, business, and relationships. It's the need we have to go all out and change because it's the only thing that motivates us. We get motivation from changing everything because we know if we changed everything, our life will change, and we're impatient. So we need that shit today. So we'll change it all so we can feel a kick in the nuts enough to get up and do the work, although knowing it's not going to last. It's the need we have to go all out on change and make near certain that change will fall through. Because, Lemke's point, change is stress. And going all out means all stress. If stress is a deviation from homeostasis, as she says, and change is stressful, then that might be the reason that we change, or the reason that we fail. Sorry, that might be the reason that we fail, because we try to change it all. My brain runs off on this rabbit trail. Do people get addicted to that stress? Maybe we become addicted to the feeling of really doing something. We know deep down it's an illusion, but we love the all-consuming delusion. The dopamine of a brighter future just on the horizon gives us the same boost that our coffee in the morning does, and who cares if it's just a fantasy? It feels damn good. Think gambling in Vegas. We know it's impossible that you leave with a leg up on playing the slots, but the rush of the activity, the pursuit of the big kill, is all too seductive. Application points. What is something you want to do? What's something you want to accomplish? Can you go without moving the needle forward today a ton in exchange for moving it forward consistently over time? Do the boring things, the low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff, routinely. And doing this will be so much easier for you too. And you'll be so much more likely to stick to it because it's not much stress. Get your feel good from accomplishing things over a longer time horizon. Not the excitement of the things you're going to get done today. And lastly, maybe change is like a garden. It takes time. Reality is like that. Change on reality's terms. Slowly. Over time. To close this thing out, the thing that I'm learning right now in my life is delayed gratification, and going days on end without a win is helping me do that. Not doing something today. That's a hard concept for a workaholic. How to slow down and get more done. As a recovering workaholic, this is like the ultimate resolution. Do less compulsive work and get more stuff done by working intentionally. That is the word, intentionally. Work intentionally over time. Don't be hooked to the idea you have to be busy 24/7 or you have to do everything. Do less. Do it routinely. Do it daily. Make it so little that you don't even know you're doing it. Make it so easy that it's not stressful, that the resistance is less, so you can actually keep it up. Here's the interesting part to this for me. Over time, it seems the motivation comes from the new acclimation to maintain the current lifestyle. The motivation to continue doing it, most of us look for the motivation in the fantasy of what's going to come. We go, oh my God, that's going to be great. We're going to be so XYZ. So I'm going to get up and do the workout and do the cardio and eat the brown rice and take the vitamins and do the stretching and not go get my coffee, not put sugar in my coffee, not put cream in my coffee, no candy, no sweets, none of my favorite chips, no favorite dinner. I'm not using any salt or pepper, nothing. But with this approach, the slow, easy, diligent, routine, boring work over time, the motivation comes from your acclimation to the current lifestyle. Whether that means your body's feeling better or your finances are easy and clear to see or the business is strong. The reality you find yourself in after 1 to 2 months of making the smallest changes consistent becomes the motivation. Remember how Lemke said we fight for homeostasis? Now, the desire to stay the same is probably working for you. That's interesting to me. This all comes down to a wonderful fruit of the Spirit, patience. So today, I want to encourage you. Work on your patience. Slow down. And you just might find you're much happier with how effective you are in moving forward in your life over time. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. I really hope it was helpful. I hope that these thoughts came across clearly. This was probably the most challenging episode to prepare for. In short, what I'm trying to say is the illusion of getting a lot done today pales in comparison to the reality of getting it done over time. And with that approach, you can compound your effectiveness and get more done and reach forward more towards your goals than you ever thought possible. Thank you so much for listening. Episode 44, Let's Keep Talking. I'm your host, Braxton Gilbert, and it was a pleasure to spend some time with you today. Please don't forget, rate the show if you haven't already. 5 stars, baby. I'll take 4 stars. Thanks for listening. See you next Monday.